Hi, I'm Paula Dayringer, a therapist at the Pleasant Valley Counseling Center. Today we're going to have a podcast about pre-deployment challenges for military members. With me today is a military member, Chaplain John Newsome, who is also the Care Ministry Director here at Pleasant Valley. Welcome, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. So I understand you are in the throes of the pre-deployment phase.
We are in all of its complexity. We're in the earlier cycles, so we're asking questions about what's things going to look like while still checking boxes for as if, right? So we're doing both and.
Okay, so it sounds like maybe the deployment is kind of tenuous, maybe up in the air. You're not exactly sure of the date you'll be leaving or the location you'll be going to.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that pretty typical?
This one feels a little bit non-typical in the sense that we're in a financial state and things are changing pretty dynamically in the world, and so we have our little plan that we are established and set to operate in, and then of course we have all the variables that are happening, and so that is an added stressor at the leadership level more than anything, which is where I tend to live as I navigate alongside leaders.
Right,
So,
right.
yeah.
And you're a military chaplain, right?
I am. I'm currently operating as a brigade chaplain, which means that not only do I have my leadership team, but then we're also deploying with our entire brigade. So we're taking battalions with us. So I have my other chaplains that I supervise are going. And so we're managing all of that and while still training.
Yeah, that sounds like a major military movement.
It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Good. So what do you feel like as the soldier in your pre-deployment phase? What is one of the biggest challenges that you feel you're facing?
Yeah, so I have I think, a distinct advantage of not just being a military chaplain and someone who puts on a uniform as what we have always affectionately called the weekend warrior, but also as a care pastor, I train in resiliency and in all the things that care operates in and tries to help people with. And so I've kind of activated my own care plan and then realized very quickly, wait a minute, I'm not the only one affected. So now I've extended my care plan that I live in to my household to say, okay, what we know about stress and in the clinical world and in the world of realm of care is that community is the number one priority, right? And so I've gone from asking, am I ready? Is my bag packed? Am I trained up? The Army's going to make sure I'm ready. But then I have to ask, is my spouse ready?
Yeah.
And so what does her circle of community look like? We've started changing some of our planning to have me out of the picture for an extended period of time. And so, all of those systems are now coming online to say, okay, this isn't just about me.
Right, right.
So.
Kind of uncharted waters, if you will, because you've probably never been away from your spouse for a number of months.
In 25 years of marriage, I've never been gone for 13 months, So, interestingly enough, I've been in the Army for a long time, been very close to deploying a few times, and just for whatever reason, it didn't happen. And so this is my first experience at this, which is interesting as an old Army guy to be finally going on a mission like this. But how does that incorporate itself into our household dynamics? We're empty nesters. So the timing's interesting because if this had happened before, there would have been kids, there would have been distractions, there would have been the business of tending to the house that would be very normal. Well, we're just adjusting to a very new normal. And so my concern is, well, I'm gonna leave my spouse very much, in a sense, alone. And so what's my responsibility as a husband? How do I make sure that there's going to be community coverage without, in the context of her personality, that being my idea or something that I'm prescribing? It needs to be her idea. And so, how do we do that? And what is it? Frankly, we don't always know what we need until the time comes for us to need it.
That's so true. That is
Yeah.
so true. I know when my husband deployed to Bosnia, one of the challenges that we faced was extensive train-up time prior to. It wasn't just that he was gone for the deployment. He was gone so much before the deployment in all of the train-up towards it, getting online with the various systems that he would be using, and that was challenging too. The constantly juggling the responsibilities. He's home, he's not home. He's here, he's not here. Are you guys experiencing that yet, or?
Well, we're experiencing that in a couple different ways. First of all, as you know, there's a process, right? So we just last weekend completed what's called SRP1. So that's a very, very early on preliminary, hey, let's check your hearing and your eyesight, all the simple medical things that the Army always checks on. And then there's a more intensive version of that coming. While still, what the Army does really, really well is if you're going on a mission, then you spend a significant amount of time learning about that mission, studying that mission, and being able to speak that mission as a second language very, very fluently. And so, yeah, while we're trying to get ready in the physical realm, we also, in the very important mental realm, we need to get ready to fight this battle before we actually fight it. So we're gonna do some simulations. We're heading to an extended training here in a couple months where we're not deploying, but we're going away for an amount of time that is above average. And so, yeah, there's all those complexities, and we have been apart. I mean, every military family has had distancing. So we've tested the extended range. I spent a month in Germany, where that was the first time that literally if something happened, you can't jump on a plane, right?
Right.
You're an 8-hour flight away from home, so then in case of emergency, what do we do? And then as a chaplain, I had a soldier that experienced a family emergency, and so I had to kind of run the systems out on, okay, how do we deal with this person? Where's the family at? How do we connect? Engage community. How do we do all that? And so we've tested that, but never for all at the same time. Never extreme distance, extreme amount of time, all those things in the same exact moment. And so that's the unknown. But the inconveniences right now are, this isn't that. It's a separate thing. Yeah. But it's still away.
Right. And the unknowns, I think, are what prey on people's mind. Right. Where are you going to go? Are you going to be in danger? How will I know? Should I watch the news? Should I not watch the news? All those things that just rattle around in your brain that I guess it's pre-anxiety.
And some of this is, we're doing a comparison contrast too, because our son deployed not too long ago. And so I'm sure that no spouse would ever say they worry more about their children than their spouse, right? But
not out loud.
But as a mom, mom's already been through these questions. Like, well, where is he? Is he okay? Well, wait, the news said. And so then I've been able to be not just a husband and a father, but a chaplain, and go, well, hold on, let me translate that into Army language for you. And then I know we're seeing, he was in the Middle East when the U.S. was trying to help some folks get out of an airport, right, and get to a safe place. And so helping mom understand on the map, like here's the safe zones and here's the zones that are a little bit more concerning, right, and translating all that data, because as soldiers, we never flinch. And especially as a chaplain, I mean, they're never going to put me on the very, very front line, right? They protect me well. I have a bodyguard. I have, forces around me. But then also, depending on your unit and what kind of mission you're going to run, what are the dangers there? They're very normal for us as soldiers, but for a spouse, they don't have a clear understanding in the operational sense of what is a day in the life of going to look like for you. Right.
And you can't tell them. I mean, you don't know what the day in the life looks like.
Right. And it's interesting. There are missions that the military goes on that are more systematic, where every 5 years there's a rotation, and so we go here and we do this and we do that, and so those create some bit of known information. But war is dynamic, and so anytime you're going into a combat zone, the enemy is going to try and disrupt your schedule. You're going to try and disrupt their schedule, and that's the very inherent nature of war. And so what we do know is that there's a rhythm change that will happen. The joke when we go into any extended training is, this is Monday number, fill in the number, right? There are no days of the week. Every day is Monday.
Every day is Monday.
And so I've had to teach my spouse that so that she understands the language of, well, I wonder where our son is today, because this is what we're seeing on the news. And I said, well, it's probably just Monday number 25 for him. So he's still going about the business, which is different, right? So I've helped people process through that post-deployment as a chaplain, and I do know that that's one of the things that we find as a stressor is the way that soldiers deploy and the mindsets that are different in the two spaces. Right.
So what would you say is a good antidote against the worry that the families that aren't going downrange, those members that the extended family, et cetera, that hopefully most soldiers, if not all soldiers, have? What would you say is the antidote to that worry, that confusion?
Well, I'm gonna have to talk like a chaplain for a minute.
I hope you will. Yeah.
So for me, for my family, as uncomfortable as it makes the children sometimes, right? They know that the answer ultimately for us is we're trusting that God will handle all of this. And worst case scenario, I'm ready to go see Jesus. I'm secure in my faith. I know where I'm going. And that doesn't mean I want to go there today necessarily or anytime soon. But ultimately, my faith is what props me up in that moment. And it's also what the trust that Jennifer extends as my spouse is that God's got this, right? And so processing whatever's going to happen through the lens of God is sovereign, God is love. He doesn't just know love, feel love. He is love. That gives us a kind of a platform to process the anxiety through, because the anxiety and when we talk about the emotional side of it, so the emotions are different. One, the deployed service member deals with things that the person at home's not going to deal with, maybe physical exhaustion from, moving from, let's say just banker's hours, right, to use an old term, to the 8 to 5 to a 16-hour work day where things are flexed and sleep deprivation is very, very real. A spouse at home is probably not experiencing that same physical load that comes from an extended, battle rhythm, is what we call them. And so the antidote is, I'll always say, is we should always have a plan. Self-care plans are a passion for me, and so I don't just have one. I don't just document it. I don't just share it with my people that I supervise and demand that they have one as well. But it's something that the people in my inner circle know. They have a copy, and so the people and practices are the way that I personally manage all of that. And so those are spiritual disciplines, but also a circle of trust with people that have the permission to say, how you doing, right? And then I have to answer honestly, right? So that's the other part of that.
So is that what your care plan looks like, is being vulnerable? Or, tell me more about that.
Yeah, so it is. It's split into two sections. It's people and it's practices, people that I have let into a very vulnerable circle of trust, and then spiritual practices that if I'm not doing them and they don't see me doing them, that someone should be concerned. If not me, certainly others. And so those are the things that no matter what your circumstances are, no matter where you're at, what your battle rhythm is for that day, I still have my plan.
Yeah, you still have your plan.
Yeah.
Until the first shot rings out, right?
And then you reset your plan.
And then you reset your plan immediately. Yeah.
Which is probably why every military service has their own Latin motto.
Yes,
The famous Semper Fidelis is, the Marine Corps is always faithful. Well, chaplains in the Army, we usually say Semper Gumby, right? We're always flexible. So,
Always.
yeah.
So if you could share just a final word of wisdom for those in the pre-deployment phase, would it be Semper Gumby?
Yeah. It is that. It's the flexibility to move into that space with a lot of grace.
Grace
allowing
meaning
each other to have the feelings that they're feeling.
Yes.
Right? I'm not going to have the same emotions that my spouse is having. But then also know your reality, create a plan, and then don't be afraid to work your plan. I mean, is it my personality, that goes really well. Other personalities would be less comfortable with that. But some version of that's still going to be true. I mean, we know what we know, and then we don't know what we don't know. So in that, I lay all of the practical things that I can up against the faith expression that says, what I don't understand, I trust that God's got this, right? Yeah. And so this is a time where we are working out physically, and we are working out spiritually and socially and mentally, so that all of our continuums are as strong as they can be.
Yes.
Yeah.
So be as strong as you can be in all the ways. So if a marriage is maybe a little tenuous, go to marriage counseling now.
Absolutely.
Get it strong before your soldier goes downrange. If your health is not great, do what you can do, because when that soldier deploys, you're going to have to bear the load. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's for spouses that have small children at home, routine, helping them understand. Right. Mommy or daddy is going to be gone, but we'll be able to talk on the phone. Sometimes we'll be able to maybe Zoom or FaceTime. I mean, communication is so much better now in this day and age than it ever was in previous wars. Yeah. And so, yeah.
Communication is our friend.
Communication is our friend. It sure is. So, well, John, thanks. I appreciate your time very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
And wish you the best as you get ready to put on that rucksack and do your duty. And thank you very much for your service and for your family sacrifices that I know are to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good to be here.